Jupes is kind of, I mean, she's basically as ready for the summer as she's going to get. You know what I mean? We were unable to get the slide in a functional working way. So we're not going to have a living room slide again for another summer. That's a bit of a bummer.
That seems kind of shitty, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think you can survive with just one? I mean, we did it, but
yeah, I'm gonna have to. It just sucks because it's like every summer this happens. And you know, go ahead.
Maybe there's a pattern there. Is it something to do with the winter or something?
No. You see, you're onto something though. There is a pattern. So we have been addressing symptom after symptom after symptom with this slide, and trying to figure out why, you know, we fix something and then something else breaks, and we fix something and something else breaks, and why does it keep degrading, right? That's kind of been the question. And we even hired this esoteric guy in town who is, you know, a bit on the spectrum, but seemed to be a clever fellow, and he had a few suggestions, but he missed what it was too. And it actually took until it completely started failing until we realized. So, you know, like when you go to IKEA and you get a desk and it's that pressboard material, that really kind of thin pressboard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's even a material thinner than that. It's sort of like what they use as the outside layer of that pressboard material. The bottom of my slide is made out of that material. And then what they did is they put in...
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah. And then they put in some steel bars as support. I mean, cheap, I guess. Weight, probably. Lightweight. And they put steel bars in there to attach the wood to. And so, like, well, you know, all good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for, you know, maybe this is just something, a disconnect between installer and designer. The way the slide's installed, the rollers that support the weight of the slide as it goes in and out are in between the metal bars. So as the slide goes out, all of the weight's on those rollers, which is between the bars, so all of the weight's just being supported by that really thin wood. And that wood is just given in over time. And now the slides have just destroyed that wood, so they just kind of, it comes down on top of, and it just sort of falls down. And the only way to fix that is to remove the dinette and the couch and all the furniture, remove the windows, remove the fascia around the slide opening, and then remove the fascia on the outside of the slide and extract the slide from the RV and tilt it onto its side so that the floor comes up, and then the shop essentially installs more metal support and makes it such that the rollers will be on a metal support bar now instead of the wood. But the only way to do that is to replace the flooring and install more and weld it to the frame and so on and so forth. And they don't really know what they'll discover once they do that. So at minimum, it's a $10,000 job. Could be a $15,000 job. And it requires completely rebuilding the floor of the slide and redoing all of the interior stuff. So then we have to ask ourselves, is it time to get a different couch? And that kind of stuff too, which would only add to the price. And then to make things even better, even though I couldn't afford it right now anyways, but to make things even better, every place is booked, right? But the good places are even more booked, which this is a good place. So the earliest they can see us is like the second week of October. So, and it's funny.
So does that mean like a year without the slide then?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, really, it's been a month so far, too, because we had it working for a bit as it just destroyed the floor more and more. And every time we would bring it in and out, it was basically destroying that wood. It was never going to last. And they were looking at it, and they think Thor knew it when they built it, because Thor put some metal plating on the outside to kind of add support. But, of course, that metal plating just was pushed through the wood. It didn't really stop anything. But they think that might have been Thor realizing after they built it, oh, this is going to be a problem. We'll slap this on here. They're only going to use it 13 days out of the year, so it'll be fine. And here we are, you know, the rig's 6, 7. I mean, it was built in 2014. We've owned it for 5, 6 years. We use it all the time, right? So,
well, it makes me wonder, like, RVs were originally designed, as you say, for like, you know, 2 weeks out of the year being used or whatever. But are there any RV designers making RVs that are more suited to your lifestyle? Has that been a thing?
I mean, they're like, $1.5 million and up, right? That's
Got it.
why I think you see such a big movement with the school buses, the schoolie movement, because you have a really solid, well-built diesel platform, and then you just build all the stuff on top of that. And if you're,
And only what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and if you're a good craftsman, you can build it better. And so now we're kind of at this point where if you remove the slides from the equation, we've basically gone through everything that's kind of a replaceable system. We've pretty much upgraded everything from literally the tires all the way up to the roof, right? I mean, every component in that entire, with the exception of things like our furnace and our water heater are stock, right? But I'm like, that's what's like left, right? And everything's better than it came with because we always did a slightly nicer one or the more current version. And now our suspension, she drives
Right.
like a large SUV in a lot of ways now. Like it's a huge,
I can't wait to see that.
huge improvement. And then, I've tuned the engine a little bit with some software. So you combine that with the better suspension and it's really something.
Nice.
It's a big improvement.
Nice.
And, like the water pump we have now, it's quieter, it's faster, it doesn't leak, all the little things we've done. And so in so many ways, she's better than she ever has been 5-6 years in. But it's like, do you spend $10,000, $15,000 on an RV that was built in 2014 that has, 55,000 miles on it? I mean, I don't know. Part
It's
of
the
me,
same argument for like having an old car, right? Is do you put the money in to maintain the thing in its current condition, or is it less of a hassle to buy something newer, right? And I think that really comes down to personality.
yeah.
If I got to be honest, or that's what I'm telling myself with my old car.
No, I agree. And I think the other thing that's tricky for us is this is full of memories. It's also our home, right? Our kid, we've had it since, Bella's been in diapers. So it's been a long time. So there's that aspect of it too. I don't know.
Not easy.
Yeah, so I got to decide, but I have till October to figure it out. So we made an appointment. So we're on the books, right?
Okay.
But I got basically.
Well, I gotta wonder. Let's say it is 15K has to be a lot more reasonable than trying to find a new rig.
Yeah.
Could you imagine it in this climate trying to find something?
Yeah. It's like do you spend that $15,000 though on, towards a down payment on a piece of property maybe, or something like that.
Okay.
Especially if there's
Right,
going to be a
right.
bit of a downturn in the housing market, over the summer and stuff like that. So it's like at one point am I sacrificing other life choices for this rig, but then at the same time, it's in this really weird nexus where it's a big part of our family. Road trips are a big part of our family culture. And I love doing road shows and doing meetups. And I already have one planned. And I'd love to do that at least once a year, if not twice a year, right? So, and that's a big part of my business. And being able to do the shows on the road and be mobile is part of what I do. So it's kind of like I'd have to also stop all that, which would be really sad.
Maybe we need an RV sponsor to sponsor one of the trips.
I know, right? Yeah. Like I'm thinking, like, why didn't I just go all in on an RV network and then I could just write all this off? Yeah,
Right.
I'll talk about it on air and then I can write it all off as if it works like that. Wouldn't that be great?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Pre-tax dollars.
It's weird because we're like, Hadi and I are both feeling sort of hopeful because in a way, it seems really clear that if we got new metal flooring installed, did a metal floor instead of this press board stuff, and because he'd put in metal bars and then sheet metal, and then put on the bottom like wood stuff, it'd probably last longer than the rest of the RV. And so in a way, it'd be like, well, you combine that with the slide system that we had installed, which they were impressed by. They thought that was pretty neat. And the slides that slide's in a really good spot now. It's in a good position, and that stuff could last a really long time. And so there's always this sort of carrot of, if we just solve this,
Right.
we're pretty much on easy street after that. Right.
But then my question becomes, what about the other slide?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing all right. They're doing all right. You know, they really are.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, the kitchen one, we got the room system. The bedroom one is the only slide that was appropriately sized for the slide system. So the bedroom slide's always been pretty good. It's starting to show
Right.
age now, but that's like, 6-7 years into it. So, yeah. Hey, why don't we say hi to
the whole concept of.
Mhm. Go ahead. You're
I
on
was just
delay.
going to say
You
the
could
whole.
keep going. You're on delay. So
Yeah.
you interrupt me and I'll stop.
Okay, I'll just keep going. All right, good. The whole concept of, extending a part of your home out into the environment and then bringing it back every now and then is really, really crazy when you think about,
Yeah.
if you have a little education in home design and, waterproof envelopes and things like that. So it's quite the feat to design something like that well.
And then it
I'll
shakes
just give
and
them a
rattles
little
down
credit.
the road,
Right. Not to mention, you're giving it a good shake every time you decide to move. So
Yeah.
it's not an easy challenge.
Hello, Mumble Room. How you doing, NorCal and Cue Ball? Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You
Thanks.
sound
Nice to
good.
be seen.
Ha! Aha! I like it. We're just about to get started, I guess. I think. I don't know. I feel like
Maybe.
I think we're good. Stefan's going to join us. He's the member of the community that's been working on the sort of minimum viable test of our website. We built around using Hugo, based off of markdown input that then kicks off GitHub actions and all that. We'll probably get him to explain it. But that's coming up here in a little bit. So we got a
That
lot.
excites me.
We got a lot. Yeah, it is exciting. It's, woof. And there's still big questions we have. Like, he's built a way to generate RSS feeds, but we're kind of already working on a solution for that. So I don't know exactly how that's all gonna go down. But we'll figure it out. It's part of why we're here.
Figure it out. Huh?
How's it feeling being home? You got right back to work.
Me?
Yeah.
Right back to work. Yeah. You got some photos of me doing some drywall projects with my brother. He does some renovation-y kind of work, and it's nice having a clone around to help you every now and then. So so I certainly got back into it. I gotta say though, you know how there are some activities that you may be really good at, and yet you don't necessarily enjoy that much?
Yeah.
You run into some of those?
Yeah.
It turns out I'm pretty darn good at like drywall finishing, but after about 3 days of doing it, I'm like,
Yeah, it seems really
I
tedious.
can only
work.
listen to so many podcasts or so much music,
Yeah.
and
it's
it's a
repetitive.
little bit, that's it. Repetitive is the word. So it was good. It was a good project though. We spent maybe 6 days doing it, and it's all done. It looks amazing now. It was kind of one of these, I don't know if you could tell from that photo I sent you, but it was one of these like attics converted into living space. So most of the ceiling is like all vaulted, I guess you call it, and exposed sort of collar ties and stuff. So it's really,
man.
really cool space in the end. And there's a chimney going right through it, with some masonry work and stuff. So it looked pretty cool.
I bet, but you're going to regret admitting that on air because Alex is going to want you to do that to his space now.
It's true. He did have a little bit of that kind of work. He wanted to build a new wall in his office, and it took me a few days, but I convinced him to do a little, maybe hesitate for now and think about doing it later.
I mean, he's got that. I'm just saying, he's got that great attic space. It just needs a little bit of finish work on it. Could be a great
you're
recording
right.
studio.
That's true. It's so nice up there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a little structural work to do there too. So maybe I can convince him that way not to do it. But
Yeah.
it is a nice space.
No, what he needs to do instead is do a recording shed in the backyard. He's got that beautiful backyard. Put a little recording shed up.
Hmm. Well, that's nice for him. He's got a bunch of options. I think if he did that, it would feel like your little dream of having a little studio tucked in the woods, because he's got all that,
The
those
trees.
trees and stuff in that backyard. It's really nice.
I could see it one day, myself having a little piece of the land on there. I take Jupes up there, I park her, and then maybe I get like one of them shipping containers or something, and I deck it out with sound insulation and proofings and maybe a split AC unit and a bunch of silent computers. And I just go crazy. Some solar panels on top. It generates its own power.
Sounds like good content. I think we should get to it.
I'm thinking, right? Like we could say the JB studio is powered by the sun. That'd be pretty rad. We could put them right there.
Hey,
The other advantage.
we know some people that are experts in the solars. You know.
You know the other advantage? The panels would kind of act as like shade for the container.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. See, you've been thinking about this for a while.
I'm just saying.
That is an advantage that's not often talked about with solar, is that it shades your sort of attic space a little bit, and that makes a big difference in the end.
Get a little airflow up there to help cool it down. You get a little shade, and then plus you add a split AC unit. I think that would work just fine if you had enough solar power and battery. But my whole thing is I'm already going to have a solution. I'm thinking a solar shed, right? So on this piece of property, I have a solar shed. It is basically a big shed with some panels on the roof pointed towards the sun as much as I can. And then inside is essentially a battery bank and a large inverter so I can pull Jupes up and plug her in. And then as things got, more built out, maybe if I had a well and a septic, over time I'd add a washer and dryer in there so we could park Jupe somewhere and have a big, large residential washer and dryer so we could just do a bunch of chores and clean and do laundry and have the battery power to recharge our batteries. Plus Jupes would have her own solar. So, I mean, it'd be great. And then
where does Chris, where do the racks of pies go?
You could have them. I mean, they'd probably be in the recording crate. I don't know what we'd call it, but yeah, the recording crate, which I'm already taking to. Because I think I'd do Reaper on a pie, right? Then I'd have like the remote host pie, and I'd have a mumble pie.
Really? You think they can handle that? Yeah. I mean, maybe in a year or two they'll be like super pies. But...
I don't know.
Doesn't Jeff Geerling have a system for racking up pies and putting them in like a regular data racks?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you could see it. I mean, you maybe like the CM4 or the CM5, you could just have a wall panel of, oh man, imagine just a wall panel with modules mounted, and they're just doing different studio tasks on one wall mount. Minimum clean wires running into it because you just need USB interfaces. Oh, all net booting, so they're all running off centralized storage.
Oh yeah,
which would be solid state. Woo! All running off Ethernet. PoE if I could. Maybe I'd get little hats or whatever, carrier boards that do PoE. I mean, I'm just saying. Imagine,
but you've never thought about this before.
Imagine if the only connection they had was the Ethernet. So we were doing audio over Ethernet as well, and PoE. So you got a cluster-ish. They'd all be separate machines, but basically a cluster of compute modules that have carrier boards that support PoE, and that's all that's going to them. And it's all DC. Oh, my goodness. I'm just telling you.
Man can dream.
I tell you what.
Sounds great.
I'll start thinking about it now, so that way after I spend loads of money trying to get Jupes fixed up, I can inch her up there one day and plop her on that piece of property and then begin building my base around her. Podcast compound.
Oh, hello, boys. Time appropriate greetings.
Hello. Mini Mech.
How is life?
Hey.
I'm fine.
Good.
I'm really fine. Cannot complain. Have you already talked to StefanS-O?
No, I don't think so. Is he in here? Hello, Stefan.
I mean, he wrote to you a lot of things. He's the one that built your site, apparently.
Right. That's why he's here today.
I was talking with him on the staging. By the way, he speaks German as I do, so we were talking in German.
Ja, okay, dann machen wir jetzt auf Deutsch weiter.
Ja, wir machen das also weiter. But I have to say, for me, German is also a foreign language. I'm from Switzerland, and we have a dialect, and that one is different, and so. Oh. But it was nice to talk to him, and then he told me some stuff he did for, ideas he had, and it will be interesting to hear you both talking about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being here. Is it StefanS-O? Do you go by Stefan? What is?
Yeah, it's Stefan. It's just the SO is just an abbreviation of my family name, and it's like the most horrible German name, so I just abbreviate it.
Great. Well, thank you for making it. You sound good. I want to mention we are monitoring the Matrix chat room for this show. That's what's up on screen right now, and that is just our general chat room. We'll probably eventually do a live chat. So this is the show we're experimenting with Matrix. Otherwise, we use IRC, and then self-hosted we use Discord. I know it's confusing. It's temporary as we transition, so this is where we test it in office hours. And our Matrix server is colony.jupiterbroadcasting.com. So there you go.
You know what? There is some interesting fact. In fact, what I realized that with Matrix, you from time to time you have a little delay. So if you are in a topic and just at the end of the topic you're doing during the show, someone has a good input, he can put that input there, but there is a chance that you already switch the topic when you read his input, because I see with Matrix you have a delay, and with our IRC chat you hit enter and it's there.
Generally right away. There's actually a delay in IRC too. It's just not so bad. People don't.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, but it's really minimal delay.
Yeah. Brentley, are you ready to record over there?
Yeah, I think I am. I was just noticing on this cute little video system we're using, it claims my CPU is overloaded. So hopefully it doesn't cause too many issues. But there's a little fire icon beside it. I think
you
that was
kidding
really nice.
me? Where does it show
No, I'm
that?
not kidding. I'm sending this your way.
That's so. I mean, it's probably right. Let's be honest.
I think it's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So, barring any problems with that, I think I'm totally ready.
All right. All right. So then we'll do a 3, 2, 1 record. All right. Here we
Deal.
go. In 3, 2, 1, record. And hello,
I'm
future
just making
Drew.
see. Yeah, everything's good.
Good.
Hi, Drew.
Future Drew.
We love current Drew too.
Yeah. It's weird. There's a lot to choose from. There's also past Drew, which is when I read messages from him that he sent while I was
true.
sleeping. It's interesting. It's a lot of versions.
It was like I don't know, 11:30 or midnight where I am, and I'm on the same time zone as him. And he was like, "Oh, I gotta go have dinner."
Oh, Drew. I hope he's taking care
right?
of himself. All right.
I think he's all right.
4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
4.
Nicely done, everybody. Nicely done. Here we go. In a 3, in a 2. It's office hours with Chris. Hello, everyone. Welcome into my office. At least twice a month, I open the door and say, hey, come on in. Other than that, it's closed all the time. But it's open right now. We're live. Noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on a Tuesday over jblive.tv. Chatting with our Mumble Room and our Matrix Room. Brent and I were just trading different stories back and forth. Hello, Brentley. How are you doing? You're back home now.
Hello, I'm good. Yeah, I'm back home. And the stories we tell each other, Chris, there are many.
We should do a podcast with them or something like that. Some kind of thing.
Oh, that's a good idea. We got to figure out how to do that.
You know where we always get great stories, Brent? Meetups.
On the way to the meetups, I think that's really what you mean.
That was my hey, Brent, you could plug the fact that we're going to have a meetup moment right there. But real
a
smooth.
segue.
Clearly,
All right, here we go.
You're good.
Well, it turns out that Alex has been scheming a little bit to have a meetup in London. Now, this is not London, Ontario, for all you people in my neck of the woods. This is London, the real one. He's going to be headed there August 6th, and he has a meetup scheduled there. I don't think he's quite chosen the location, has he, Chris? But 2 p.m.?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the way Meetup does time zone
And,
stuff is so screwed up, so you got to be careful with that. But I would follow it over at the Meetup page, meetup.com.
Yeah, this is 2 p.m. UTC. And, I checked out the page earlier this morning, and there are already 40 people who say they're going to be attending. I did see a Wimpy's name on there. I didn't get to browse everybody, but I really want to go now.
I know. And I just not long ago said yes to something in the first week of August here at home. And I don't know if I could go anyways, but now I like to think that's what I get for committing ahead of time to something. I'm like, oh, dang it. You know how I have a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
Are you going to try?
You got to choose wisely.
You know what we got to do, Brent, too, is we got to, we got to talk about. Go ahead. What do you think?
It turns out Alex also booked me ahead of time, and he would like me to dog sit for him during that time. So I think he's made it so I can't go.
Are you really?
So I don't know.
Are you
what's
telling
going
me?
on.
Are you telling
Yeah.
me? Are you going to fly to North Carolina, to Raleigh, North Carolina, to dog sit? You're the guy he calls for
I
that?
think also they're hoping to see me in that time, but
they're gonna be
it turns out
leaving.
Archie is pretty amazing. Yeah, but he's got the fancy drum kit, and he's got all the machines and stuff I could play with and break.
true.
So
It's true.
3D printing maybe.
Yeah. I just remember you're going to be on
We'll see.
camera.
We'll
You
see.
know how that goes. He'd be checking in on you. What's that Brent up to?
Mm-hmm.
But I
No,
hope
I got duct tape. It's fine.
I hope this happens. Meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting if you're in the London area, and maybe you could go. I mean, 40 people. It's probably going to happen now. I don't think there's any going back. So check it out for that.
I don't know if they have any pubs big enough for 40 people. That might be a problem. So we'll see what happens.
we got big website updates today. Big website energy. But before we get there, just a couple of podcast news items I wanted to cover here in the office. Just keeping an eye on things. I thought this was pretty funny because dynamically inserted ads are a hot topic in podcasting right now. Like this is one of the biggest trends sweeping podcasting that we are not participating in. But just about everybody else is, especially the Spotify platform. And they had a bit of a technical faux pas this week. They started putting booze ads on all different kinds of podcasts as banner ads and whatnot. In fact, some you could even click to buy the booze. I think it was Wild Turkey. But the automated system ended up putting ads on podcasts about sobriety and alcoholism, even ones where you could click and buy immediately. There were also a bunch of fake sex worker podcasts submitted to the podcast index that Spotify just auto-accepted and started placing booze ads on. Just like, I don't know. Like, and of course, Spotify, a spokesperson said on Saturday they made a technical error that caused the ads featuring Wild Turkey brand incorrectly be placed on a number of podcasts.
Sure.
Dynamic ads. It's the future. It's the future. Yeah, just so weird. So weird. And Spotify, they fix it, right? But the damage is done. Imagine you were listening to a podcast about something for alcoholics that are trying not to drink, right? And it's about that topic, and you see an ad for Wild Turkey on there.
That's like the worst of the worst.
And don't you think most people would blame the podcaster? They wouldn't think it was Spotify that placed it there. They'd think the podcaster.
Oh, no, of course. And I wonder if that's how they learned of it. They got some feedback into the podcast, and the podcast was like, wait a second. And I think that's really what happens when you start taking humans away from this whole process, right?
Yeah.
You start getting just
right.
things that humans would never do to each other, which is unfortunate.
Is a rampant problem on the YouTube platform. And there is just a really kind of gross thing happening where a couple of the biggest tracking or sponsor number collating businesses, I don't have a better term for them. They're middlemen that basically track podcast downloads and then sell ads to advertisers at scale. PodTrack is one of them. Libsyn is in this business as well. Several others are. And they're always kind of putting information out there that's harmful to podcasts. I never quite get it. Usually it's like information to lower the podcast ad rates or now it's essentially a research paper they've posted that says that podcasters who post their podcast to YouTube see much better engagement. And the PodTrack white paper says that they did an analysis of audio and video podcasts that post to YouTube and discover they have much higher engagement. Now, why is this? This seems like a kind of a good thing. Like we're on YouTube right now, right? This is maybe this is a good thing. I'll tell you what's going on. And this is becoming alarming. And I try not to focus on the negative, so I'll just touch on this briefly. There is a ginormous shift in the podcast marketing spending towards YouTube because Google gives them the ability to kind of slice and dice the demographics in a way that podcasts just don't expose that data. And they have also a much higher click rate in general, supposedly, because of the link down in the description stuff that's such a prominent thing on YouTube. And so you're already seeing a ginormous shift in podcast advertising spend from podcast to YouTube. And so when you have groups like PodTrack coming out and saying this stuff, they're really only kind of undermining the actual podcast market. But here's the reality of it: is there is some truth. There is reasons to be on YouTube. The ad platform is automatic. It scales automatically. There is a lot of data that advertisers can request. They love that kind of stuff. There is pretty good engagement. You got the comment section there. You do have the description box. And there's generally, depending on, your channel, a pretty good community over there. Sometimes not. But it's a different audience, right? And all different audiences are valuable. And the podcaster audience is generally somebody who's, commuting, or maybe they're doing chores, or they're going for a walk or a bike ride, or they're drywalling, they're an attic that their brother's working on, right? Like, it's people that are generally doing something, maybe people that are decision makers at their work. Like, it's a different category of audience, and they're all good audiences. But instead of doing research on that and getting those answers, which I can tell you from 15 years of doing this, I've tried all the different platforms. And I clearly think that the podcast audience is the best audience out there. And I have solid, pretty core reasons for that belief. And there's things they could go do to verify that. Anybody who's passionate about this industry would know what some of those things are, and could if they had the time and money and resources to make white papers, they could go write those white papers and bolster the podcast industry. But instead, you have PodTrack, which is a very common. We've used them. We do use them for some of our links to track downloads. They're a redirect, right? And then that lets advertisers know that there's a third party arbitrating the data that says, yep, this is verifiable. Even though we keep our own numbers and they're accurate, we need them to be. In fact, they're better than PodTrack's numbers. PodTrack is just there because we can use them as a third party to verify those numbers that we have. And so a lot of people use it for that. And they're not really helping the podcast industry with this kind of stuff. But maybe it's just more of the trend that way. It's sort of shifting anyways, Brent. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like with the boosts and the really positive response to the value for value model, and kind of just the parabolic adoption we're seeing in other areas of the podcast world, I don't know. I feel like maybe this stuff just doesn't matter, because more and more podcasters and more audience members are kind of getting it all figured out. I mean, that's sort of the silver lining here.
Yeah, it feels like podcasting is kind of maturing quite a bit even in the last 2 or 3 years. Feels like it was kind of on a steady trend, but then, like you said, there's this exponential innovation. Maybe is
I hope
what we can call it.
I like that idea.
Especially we're seeing with the podcast 2.0 stuff, even just the technical features that we're seeing coming down the pipe is super, 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 super fun. So, yeah.
There's one more headline.
It's good for us if we're concentrating in the areas that we think work, right?
Yeah, and I think you're seeing a consolidation in other areas. So you're seeing the decentralized podcast industry. I think you're seeing it get stronger. I think that's what you're just touching on there. And I think on the other side, you're seeing sort of a commercialization and consolidation, a solidification of some elements that have always been really commercial elements of the podcast industry. And so this morning, for example, or maybe it was last night as we record, SiriusXM announced that they have acquired the podcast producer team for Team Coco. They produce Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which is a very popular podcast. And they've entered into a 5-year talent agreement with the company. According to the Wall Street Journal, the reported value of the deal is at $150 million. So they cut Conan a check for $150 million, and now SiriusXM is running the podcast. They did that not too long ago with Megyn Kelly as well, so they're trying to acquire some of the bigger names with some of the larger distribution and make them under the Sirius brand. So you are seeing a consolidation there. And of course, those
Sounds
are very
a bit like a Joe Rogan thing, doesn't it?
It very much does, huh? Like, that's just like, we're just seeing more of that. And the companies that have the money to spend, like Sirius, like, they're funny, right? Because their business is supposed to be satellite radio. But I wonder if the podcast stuff isn't a way larger audience for them. Who knows?
I would imagine it is.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, I can't remember the last time I listened to satellite radio in like a rental car or something. It's always podcasts that I bring with me. So I would imagine podcasting is squashing their main business, and they got to diversify.
All right, well, a little bit of JB stuff, including some website stuff that we've been working on, but really just briefly, I wanted to mention with the decentralized podcast stuff and the value for value, for a few weeks, I'm experimenting with 15% of all of the boosts that come into office hours and Linux Unplugged are being sent to OpenSats. We've included OpenSats in our split. So when you contribute to this show via a boost, 15% of it will be split to OpenSats. They're supporting contributors on Bitcoin and other free open source projects. And, you know, this is something I've wanted to try is can we give a little bit of a cut to different open source projects? And I like OpenSats because they're donating 100% of what they receive to open source projects. They are a full charity in the U.S. here. They are, a 501(c) or whatever it is. Probably getting that wrong, but you can find it out on their website at opensats.org. And they pass through 100%, and we're sending it to their general fund. All of that will be given to open source free software developers. And I love this idea, and so I wanted to help support them because I'm at least hoping it encourages other free software projects to turn on a Lightning address. And then we could start including them in splits, and we could kind of share the love around a little bit. I introduced this on Linux Unplugged. I didn't really get your reaction at the time. I'm curious, what do you think of this kind of thing, Brent? The OpenSats in particular, and then just sort of the whole split stuff. Have you thought about it much since we talked about it in the last office hours?
Yeah, the concept of giving a little bit to projects has always been something we've wanted to do. I know for me personally, but I've run up to the challenge, as you know, of it just being difficult to give to a bunch of different projects at the same time. So I'm hoping this solves a little bit of that, if only the implementation details can be, smooth enough to make it fairly easy for projects to sign up, and also for people like us to be on the other side and to make those donations possible in an easy kind of fashion. So that brings me to, I guess, asking you about some of the implementation details that I'm always so curious about. Like, I know you have your little node at the studio, and I wondered how easy it was for you to get connected to the OpenSats in a way to do splits. I don't think you touched on that yet, and I'm curious. I've seen you open channels to like the podcast index and such, but how was it this time around?
So this is even easier. This is why it's a good question, because this is kind of one of the reasons I'm excited about this. So we just entered them in as a split in our RSS feed. So there's a value namespace tag that Podcasting 2.0 has created, and you can just add multiple value tags, and you just put a percentage of the split. So I'm giving them a 15% split. I don't even have to open a channel. I don't even have to say anything to them. I just go get their public Lightning address. I put it in my split, and now they just get 15% of all the boosts. And it's that it's so
That's
easy.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. And what I love about that is that makes it really easy for me in a few weeks to put a different open source project in there, and then put a different open source project in there, right? It's real low effort, super straightforward. And I'm very excited about that because, imagine like we have on, say, a developer who's working on an open source project that we like. And we just include them in the splits that week. Or Stefan, who we're about to chat with, is working on our website. If he had a Lightning address, I could put him in as a split this week so he gets some sats for helping us out. And that, I think, could help just build community and help encourage people to contribute to free software projects. And I don't know. I think it's pretty great. No, the recipients don't actually know. So we're getting asked by Qball if the recipients know who it comes from. They could. There's on-chain analytics that OpenSats could probably look into, but no. Otherwise, they don't really know. Sorry, Brent, go ahead.
Chris, you mentioned implementing this as a RSS feed level split. I was curious if there's an episode level split or if that's something that they're looking into.
Yes, so you can do that. We would need to be generating our own RSS feeds to do that. So there's a lot of ways you can solve this problem. I'm just putting the split in at the podcast index level, but if we managed our own feed, you could have default show splits, and then we could have per episode splits that we put into the feed entry for that episode. Yeah, and that's going to be fun.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm very much excited about that. So I wanted to kick a little over to OpenSats to help some open source projects. They have my absolute favorite Bitcoin wallet as one of the. There's a bunch of good projects on there, but one of the recipients is the Sparrow Project, which makes, I think, the wallet I feel the most comfortable recommending to the audience. It's technical, but it's a really good product. And there's a few other things they support on there that I really like too, and a bunch of other projects. So there we go. Now, before we get to Stefan, one more thing. I want to talk about a question that we've gotten in on various platforms. We also received it in our GitHub thread where we're talking about our new website. And like Reese here, he says, what about using something like Castapod for the new Jupiter Broadcasting? It's a podcast host that supports Podcasting 2.0, and it can be self-hosted and has a paid offering. I think it bundles a homepage for multiple podcasts as well, but I'm not sure. This is a really good question. So Castapod is an awesome open source project. And yeah, you can also self-host it. It's really something that I should be talking more about. And if you wanted to start a podcast today and you wanted to self-host it and you wanted a platform to help you do that, I really, really think Castapod would be worth looking at, castapod.org. It's like a Fireside in a box and, a whole podcasting hosting platform, but with support for all the great 2.0 features right there from the beginning, like things like clips, trailers, transcripts, and of course value for value support like boosts. I really love this project. I wish it was a solution for us, because we could deploy this in an afternoon and we're good to go. But Castapod would be probably perfect for us if we had Linux Unplugged and Linux Action News. Maybe we just did those two shows or something like that, right? But what we are looking for is something that accommodates a whole network of shows and allows us to push forward in areas when we want to push forward instead of having to wait for the vendor platform to push forward. And I say that from a lot of years of just trying one platform after another. Initially, we started on a single server using WordPress, and then we used WordPress plugins to accomplish a lot of this. Then we moved to the scale engine system, and we came up with a scale engine approach to WordPress and kind of expanded on the original idea and built in CDNs and all that kind of stuff. And then ultimately, we moved a lot of the hosting work over to Fireside, which is a pretty great platform. And you've seen a lot of my friends in the Linux podcasting space move over to it as well to host their podcasts. And that has worked pretty well for us. But as new things develop in the podcasting space, we have to wait on Fireside to deliver them. Or there's some features we've been waiting on Fireside to deliver, like network support, for like 3.5 years, and they just haven't delivered on it. So we don't have like one cohesive Fireside-powered website. We still have to maintain a separate JupiterBroadcasting.com website, which is WordPress. And that's not ideal, but also we want to be able to control our own RSS feeds like we just talked about for reasons that are pretty obvious to anybody listening at this point. And we want to be able to have, power over that sort of stuff. And we ultimately find that while these platforms work for us for a few years, we always eventually outgrow them. So the thinking has been, what if we stuck with using open source tools and free software and all of that stuff, but we went down a layer? So instead of using these end result products like Castapod or Fireside, we use the tools that they could be using to build those things. So we do things like we create an ingestion system that maybe is based around GitHub Actions that then can do things like generate a website for us a static website, once a show has been posted. And maybe there's tooling we could use in there like Hugo to help accomplish some of that, but it's just part of one of the solutions, right? Because when you think about what we do from a publishing house standpoint, we record a file here, we record multiple tracks here in the studio, we deliver that to our editors, who are wonderful individuals, and it's mostly Drew, right? Drew and Marius now. Drew is our lead editor now. And he does his job of like making us sound better and making us sound more intelligent. And then he publishes that as a FLAC up to an encoding system that we've built called Castablasta. And that generates audio files like MP3. It generates a YouTube video visualizer. It creates a WordPress post. It creates RSS feed entries. It uploads the MP3 to Fireside. It does a lot of back-end things. And what we want to do is sort of streamline that process and make it a little bit simpler with a more consistent source of truth based around a GitHub workflow where we check things in. People can do pull requests against them to fix them. That's all logged and tracked there. Kicks off GitHub Actions. That goes out and builds things like the posts. It does the uploads. And that's where we're getting to. And instead of relying on one built-in CMS that has all these features, when we want to add something new to the RSS feed, well, we're just adding a new line to the XML file we're generating. And so instead of using the end result of the tooling, we're going to use the tooling that creates that stuff, is basically where we're going with this. And so while Castopod would be a great solution if we were looking for the end result, we're now deciding we're going to get to the point where none of these platforms have ever really fit us. So we're going to use some of the same primitives to build the tooling we need without going crazy. And so that's why we've been really kind of hung up on how do we want to get all this like workflow stuff figured out, because the website is important, but it's an implementation detail. And thankfully, Stefan has come along and he's provided what is essentially an MVP of a statically generated website that I'm looking at and thinking, there's a lot here already. Like, this has been really impressive. So Stefan, welcome into the office. Thanks for being here. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing fine. I hope you are well too.
Good evening to you. I know it's late where you're at, so I appreciate you coming on here. You created this Hugo-powered MVP of a Jupiter Broadcasting website. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it is and how it's being built and all that stuff? Give us an overview here.
Yeah, okay. So it basically is like a Hugo static site, and it has also the capabilities to deploy multiple pages from the same source. So meaning you have the Jupiter broadcast overview site, and then you can, for example, build the Coda radio subsite from that source as well, and that's then just has the Coda radio episodes and so on, not all shows. And then I went from there. It's able to generate XML feeds. It has a video player, an audio player with like chapter support, markdown support for the show notes. The hosts are linked from a central location, so only one file per person exists, and that is linked to the episode. Same goes for like guests and sponsors and so on. And I just started like for fun, and then I got really far in like 4 or 5 hours, and then it got a bit crazy from there on. And so I've worked for a week on that. It's all deployed and built using GitHub Actions, and I think it checks like a lot of boxes you had as a requirement for what you want to do. And I just wanted to prove that it's possible and viable to do so.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did, because I had suspected Hugo could be a route to go for us. We hadn't really picked on landed on a technology yet, but I know in the back of my mind I was thinking maybe it's going to be Hugo. And so what you've done here is basically shown us that with a markdown file, you can generate a lot of the website kicked off from GitHub, which is sort of the exact model we're thinking about. I think we still have internally questions around how we want to generate RSS feeds and how we want to host those RSS feeds and all of that. But I think what you've created here is a good starting point for us to tweak the design a little bit, but basically the bones of this thing, we could make the website. It's like not that far. It's like probably 70% of the way there, if not more. So what else? I know you also kind of added a CMS element to this, which I thought was interesting, and I didn't realize that even was a thing with Hugo. Can you just, what's going on with that?
So that was maybe due to my not being a native English speaker, a bit lost in translation. So I built something. So I have the problem now that I have to generate like a lot of markdown files for all the shows. And I probably have to do this over and over because I tweak the front matter in Hugo where the episode information lives and so on. And I wanted a way to have like a single point of truth where I can query data in a structured manner, be it from Fireside sites or from Jupyter Hub and so on. And so I've installed a headless CMS, which is basically a CMS without a front end and just a REST API. And then I built a Python scraper, a content scraper that goes over Jupyter Hub and Fire sites and then creates hosts, posts, shows, and so on from there. And then I can just like generate with also a Python script the markdown files for Hugo for all the shows and all the archive and so on.
Right.
So that's basically, to get the legacy content in.
That is so amazing.
It's great. And, I could see us down the road when we get to this fabled source of truth where we're essentially checking a YAML file into GitHub, which this YAML file will contain all the details about the episode.
Right.
I could see that being what generates the website when we get to that point.
Yeah, right. So everything is generated from markdown files in Hugo and from the GitHub repository. But I just want to make it easier to generate those markdown files
Right.
for the archive. Yeah.
This is so cool. What I want to do is try to get a few of us on a call with Wes on here and Alex and Brent and myself and talk more about this, at another time when we're not recording, and just sort of start working out the details, because I think this is the direction to go. I think Wes probably has a few questions, and I know there's more you want to tell us and show us. So
sorry. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry at all. Thank you so much for doing this. This is so great. And what I really appreciate about it is it lets us focus on the workflow stuff, which is really where Wes and I have been spending the most time thinking, because that's the stuff we hit up against every single day. And it's the stuff that we have the most eyes on, right? Whereas this is something that we really can get help with. And so I really appreciate, Stefan, you stepping up and doing that. And also for sticking around this evening and coming on and telling about it live, which I know also.
Yeah, super happy to do so.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. And keep up the great work. We'll stay in touch. You and I are chatting on Matrix, so we'll keep talking. But thanks for making it in.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Wow. And there he goes. Look at him. What a handsome bastard that guy is, too. We really appreciate him. Thank you, sir. Best community ever, right? Best community ever. I think so.
Just browsing through the discussions that were happening on GitHub, where I think it was Office Hours 3, we sort of kicked that off. Man, the discussions have been amazing there, exchanging ideas and different technologies and just like asking important questions. It's a really great read, actually. I would highly suggest you just diving in there if you're at all interested in the back end of all of this. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we've been kicking around some of the links. Hey, what do you think of this idea? Like, even though we haven't always, I've been driving and traveling so much, but we've still been jumping in there, and then we'll see like a link show up on our Slack, and so we'll be like, what do you think of this idea? So it's been great. It's been really, really nice, and I think it's helped us really get some good ideas that maybe we wouldn't have even considered in the first place. So, yay!
Boostagrams. Yeah, I think a huge thank you to everyone who really shared ideas and are really active in there. To everybody, thanks a lot.
The best.
It's been amazing.
What do you say we do some boosts?
Boost.
Eric Parday, you think? That first one, Eric Parday wrote in 3 days ago with 15,000 sats. Thank you, sir. And he had a note in here about Fountain showing show notes versus other apps. He says, thanks, guys. Speaking of Fountain, I'm not sure why, but Fountain seems to be cutting off the links. When you compare it to, say, Pocket Casts, you can see that there is a lot more notes. And he included some screenshots for us, which is nice. In a boost, probably not the super easiest thing to do either. But and you can see it. And I've noticed this too. I'm not sure what's up. I'm probably going to have to try to talk to Oscar. In Fountain, you get like the episode description. And that's kind of it. But in Pocket Casts, you get all of the links and all the stuff that we spent a lot of time curating. And the sponsored by, which is also pretty important.
We work super hard on that.
Do. So it's like, yeah, very much. So there we go. Hey, OBS, how you doing? So yeah,
I can't believe neither of us have noticed that, considering how much time we spent with Fountain.
Yeah, I know. It shows you like, well, for our stuff, like I go in there to clip our stuff. I don't go in there to look at the links because.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
yeah, but I do appreciate.
We know what the links are.
Yep. All right, we got one from the Golden Dragon. He says, thanks for another great office hour session. What I'm the most excited about in the 2.0 spec for podcasting is that I can support this network shows without breaking the bank. Strike and Fountain FM was a super easy setup to get up and running. Boostagrams are fun, and of course, I like the value for value aspect a lot as well. Hopefully the splits work out because the ideas in this episode were fantastic. I'm glad to hear that you like the splits Golden Dragon because you're a frequent booster, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on us including OpenSats for a little bit as our first trial and experimentation. I mean, we're going to do Brent too as well, but he's got to get a lightning node up and running that stays up and running. That's got to be a thing.
Somewhere in the world, anyways. Yeah, Alex crushed my last one, so we'll see.
Yeah, I might have come across an application that would let me run multiple node addresses, and so I could run like a bank account for you on my node or something like that.
Oh, I see. You're going to charge me fees, though, aren't you?
There's a great idea. That's a great idea. I have seen at NorCal Dad was saying that he doesn't see the ability to boost office hours in Fountain. I think there's like 2 feed entries in there, and I'm not sure what's going on. So I have a couple of things I got to talk to the Fountain FM developers about. Thankfully, they've been really awesome and super responsive. So I don't think it'll be a problem. But yeah, that is definitely going to be on my list of to-dos this week. BOOST. TV Titan boosted in 7 days ago with 3,333 sats. Thanks for office hours. I've been enjoying them. Would you guys consider leaving the video version on YouTube after the stream? I prefer to catch the show on my TV. Yeah, I know what you mean. I actually, when I go home in the evenings, you know this, Brent, I watch a fair amount of YouTube on the TV.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a really nice way to kind of feel even more connected when you're watching a podcast. Or
well, you know,
like
PodTrack says.
So, oh, well, it's true. Ooh, all the way around.
Yeah, you know, I've been noodling this in my head a bit because we're practicing with video in office hours and for self-hosted as well. And the only problem is we screw around a lot on the pre-show, and we cut some of that out in the MP3, or most of that out in the MP3 that we release.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And Drew cleans up mistakes and makes it sound better, so it's much better in the car or in your headphones. But I could see leaving the video version up on YouTube, and maybe we just don't publish the audio version to YouTube. I could see doing that. I've also been considering if I could find a community member that would work with me and wanted to be the admin of a JB Peertube instance. I think I'd like to start publishing our stuff to Peertube, maybe using that for live streaming and putting the videos up there. And then if we expand stream, it's basically camera capture of the recording session. If we expand that out to LUP and those shows, we'd probably start posting that on Peertube as well. So if anybody out there is listening and is a Peertube enthusiast, like you know Peertube, and would like to help run it, you can run it on my infrastructure. I have a Linode ready to go. But I don't want to be in charge of it beyond having an admin account, because if you go to jupiter.tube right now, I have a Hugo page up there, speaking of Hugo, where I identify all the issues that I ran into with running Peertube at scale. And I reread that this morning, and I think some of those things still are valid. But if somebody was willing to generate the back end stuff or the time and dedicate the time to it for the back end and for managing it, then we could probably make it work. We could start posting stuff over there. But I don't know. What do you think? Should we leave this up on YouTube? The booster wants it. Who is it? TV Titan. He wants it up on YouTube. I mean, he sent it a boost.
Appropriate name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It feels. I don't know. I get your hesitation, and I'm feeling the same way as you. For other shows, we have that sort of uncut, total live feed for members as a nice perk. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really attractive because the sort of really clean, polished, all the work that our editors do to make us sound far more intelligent is sort of the public facing part of the podcast, which I think is like a good demonstration of the quality we're always chasing. And the raw stuff is really just, once you're cozy with that and that's the quality that we have, then you kind of want a little bit of dirt in there from time to time just to get some tasty bits of the stuff that happens before and after the show. So,
but you want your first impression to be like the best cut of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
exactly. So maybe this could be an office hours perk, perhaps that we think about.
I think the question you're raising
to throw it out as a raw.
Yeah. I think the question you're raising there is, who is the YouTube audience? Are they like new discoveries, or are they people who follow the network already? I think that's one question. And I think the other question is, because YouTube is a video medium, does the rawness sort of not matter because it's superseded by the video aspect, which is what the platform is built around, right? So like, because you see like the views on the waveform videos are very low, as you would expect them to be on YouTube, right? So like, I don't know, we're not getting a lot of engagement with the audio waveform already. I'm not sure. We could experiment with it, would probably be my preferred way to do it would be to have our own Peertube instance. And then because that is people specifically seeking us out, intentionally going somewhere. They already know about it because they heard about it from us. So they're getting the raw thing, but they're getting the raw thing because they've chosen to. And then the public-facing thing should go on YouTube, I would think. But I'd be willing to experiment. We could try it with this episode. I'd have to let Wes know. We have to make a little tweak to the publishing system so it doesn't publish the other one. But you follow what I'm saying there? Like Peertube might be the better place for like the more uncut stuff.
Because it sort of self-selects a little bit for people who already know that the kind of stuff we typically do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the real way to do it would be to do what Bitcoin did podcast does, which is a super clean video thing. But I remember now, it's been a few years you decided to stop doing all of that. So that's another tricky thing, right? It's like, how much do you push that envelope and then you get into the same territory that we were in previously? So that's another question.
Where I kind of like what we're doing now is we're doing a live stream. You know, we've got cameras going. We've got a couple of camera angles, but it's not really relevant to the show. It doesn't really change the aspect. It doesn't change any of the content. And nobody's editing it. It's just, it goes out as it is. So it's really, it's like a separate thing. And I think that's how I prefer to have it. I could see it. I think if I ever want to get into like actual video shows, I'd want to shoot it for video, and
yeah, you'd want to do it well. We'd set up more than just my crap webcam here and stuff like that. We know how to do it better.
Funny enough, your crap setup there kind of betrays the fact that when you're actually working and you're on location setting up a camera shot, you put an enormous amount of effort. You're kind of like a MacGyver of lighting too. You're very clever.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with my situation right now, so I don't know if that shows.
Oh man. All right, well, we got just a couple of thank you boosts in too. So thank you to Pitar, who sent us an F yeah for boosts, and Tokyo Trucker, who was streaming sats while he listened. Thanks to both of you. If you'd like to send us a boost or try out any of the new Podcasting 2.0 stuff, you can go to newpodcastapps.com. I will link in the show notes to office hours on Podverse. Podverse is interesting. It does support value. It supports clips. It supports Podcasting 2.0. But what I'm kind of digging about Podverse is it has a full-featured web podcast player, and then it has an Android app and an iOS app. I think it has like a membership system, though I haven't got into any of that, but I've been checking it out, so I'll link to office hours on Podverse if you want to try it out. Otherwise, the app that I use on the daily is Fountain. You can follow me on Fountain. I'm at Chris LAS. I have a profile there, and I'm cranking out clips from time to time of our shows and the various shows that I listen to. So that's kind of one of the nice things that Fountain has going for it, if you're into the clips, which initially I wasn't. And then I end up sticking around for the clips. And now I'm all about the clips.
The clips are pretty tasty.
Yeah, and they let you share web versions, and they'll generate video versions. And
it's slick. It's a nice implementation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we talked about discovering new podcasts that way, too, because you get a little bit of a preview, too. I think it's great. Here's
the thing, Brent. Here's the thing. And this is the Lord's truth about podcasting. Really, nobody wants to take the chance on like an hour-long podcast or 45-minute or 2-hour podcast just randomly. If you're maybe super into something and you're looking that up, you'll do it, right? But generally, especially like a show like this show or some show that's kind of more general, you're going to need somebody to recommend it to. You're going to need word of mouth. That is the number one version of marketing, right? It's word of mouth. Sure. I think it's probably always going to be by a strong lead, the number one form of marketing for podcasts. But I could see a world where a distant number two is clips, because I've probably started listening to 2 or 3 different podcasts now because I found a clip of them first that somebody in our community shared with me. And I get it because sometimes there's a little nugget in one of those podcasts and you're like, oh, I like that. Maybe I'll go listen to the rest of them. And I end up tapping and following their whole show. So I am excited about clips. I don't expect it to be huge. They're a little tedious sometimes, but I could see it being a nice way to share the show. So if you want to make a clip and share it, have at it. You know what I'm saying? All right, Brian, I think that's everything, yeah? I think we're done.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't have anything on my list left, so I think we're in good shape.
All right. officehours.hair/5 for links of what we talked about today. You can find our RSS feed over there, too. We got a lot of projects. I wanted to talk more about the summer road trip. If you're in the West Coast area, listen up. We got big plans for the summer, and there's going to be something really special at the end of the road trip that's only going to be available to a limited amount of people. You'll understand why. It's not a price thing or anything like that. It's just because the facility is only so large. But we'll tell you. We got so many more details on all of that coming up soon. So be sure you're subscribed. Lots of adventures over the summer. Lots of projects, new website stuff. All of it, officehours.hair/subscribe. You can send a boost in. You can send a boost into the show as well to give us feedback and give us ideas. We'll cover them on the next episode. Anyway, it's time to get out of here. Office is closed. Close. Yeah. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Thanks for being here. All right, Brentley, I'll stop on that guy right there.
Sounds good.
There we go. What do you have on your time? What did you get for length?
Oh, let me move the window here. That's in the way because my monitor's too small.
Oh, my goodness.
4446 is
Okay.
looking like what I have.
Oh, my goodness, Brent. I feel so
I know.
bad for you.
Not enough technology or too much, just poorly organized.
Oof, though, you know? Like, it's not ideal when you don't have you're moving around so you can't get your right work set up. It took me a long time to get my work set up dialed in Lady Jupes, as you know. It took me a long, and I feel like I'm just kind of getting there, so I feel you.
Well, I just finally have like a proper dedicated desk and, I'm not quite showing it, but I've got a bunch of sound isolation stuff that I took quite a while to build around here. So hopefully it's kind of the dedicated corner for podcasting. That's not a closet, which is quite an upgrade for me. Remember that time I did a podcast from a truck, the interior of a truck, and it sounded surprisingly good. Like that's what I'm used to. So setting this up has been great because typically when we're not doing video, I'm using a different laptop that's quiet and out of the way and not on the desk and such. But yeah, I feel like I haven't quite even come close to having a setup that I could just sit down at and hit go. And I think that's the dream. You're there, but not always there.
Not always, but when I'm in the studio, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I feel like I'm on that path, but not quite.
Boy, this chair is making so much noise these days. So we got let's follow up on a couple things on the chat room. Optimus Gray says we could always give just a private link to party members. The computer guy says maybe it's better for the pre-show to be off the record. Being able to speak freely without worrying about being canceled 10 years later might be nice. There is an element to that. There are things we've said on live streams that years later I wish we hadn't. At the time, they weren't a big deal.
They're recorded? What?
Well, some of them. Not as many. They kind of disappear after a while. It looks like after NorCal Geek Dad added the feed directly. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for letting me know. And then Binary Creations asks if I've tried Wave at wavv.co. So I thought I'd take a look at that. Make your audio snackable. Oh boy, they got a real pitch here. Make your audio snackable. That's right. Snackable, shareable audio, everybody. Tasty treats of audio.
That just makes me hungry.
Get access to tasty audio. Create your first video with some tasty audio. Bytebitten says I should look into sodium batteries for a future. You're right, Byte. And solid state batteries, right? Is that the same thing as solid state, or is that a different tech? Byte? I see you. I don't hear you, but I see you, Byte. He's there.
Hey, Byte.
Yeah. What do you think? Snackable audio. Snackable.
What does that even mean, really?
I think it means easy to share. I don't know.
Like bite-sized? Is that what they mean?
Sodiums are kind of a solid state, he says in the chat room. Oh, there you go. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. I got to look into it. That's the short and long of it. I think the sound card on the soundboard machine is dying. The USB audio interface.
You don't say.
Yeah, it's disconnected
Why do you
twice.
think that? Oh, That is so interesting because on my end, I think Pulse like rebooted twice while we were doing
Really?
this stream. Yeah. Thankfully, I still have waveforms and everything, and you were still able to hear me. But I think it might be time for me to scrap this install. And
you think it's the
do
install, or
something
do you
fresh.
think it's hardware? Because sometimes when Pulse restarts, it's actually just responding to the audio hardware failing.
Okay. Well, I hadn't considered that because it's been so stable. But
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not that too. It may not be, so don't panic.
No, it could be because nothing in this setup has changed.
The computer guy says, should have used Pipewire.
Right. I do usually use the interface plugged into a different computer with a totally different OS and everything. So maybe that isolates it to just this sort of production laptop that I have. So I'm going to blame the software.
Brent, all we got to do is triple the revenue of the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
get Starlink business for you out there. Get you a booth. You know, get you all the materials to build a booth. Get you a nice PC in there.
Yeah.
Get a fiber connection to that Starlink. You know, I'm just saying that's all we need to do.
Okay. Well, send in your boosts. We'll get there.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna have to be a little bit larger boosts for that to happen, I think. Most of them are under $1. So actually, we got a $15,000 boost today, or 15,000 sat.
That's
boost,
impressive.
Which is,
I mean, everything helps.
Yeah, I think $1 is like 3,800 sats or something like that, something around there. In that ballpark. I don't know. All right, should we see if the audio is working? What do you say?
Yeah,
One,
let's try it.
A 2. It's working.
Hey.
I don't know.
That's pretty bluesy, too.
It disconnected for a moment. Hello, KP. Welcome in. Congratulations. Elementary school graduation. Adorable.
Wow.
Binary Creations asks, how does the Lightning Network on top of Bitcoin, how does that relate back to actual dollars or money? Well, sats are money. So sats are what gets transferred over Lightning. And there's a constantly moving dollar to sat value. Like right now, it's $29,361.84. That changes, but a sat always remains a sat. So you can send 1,000 sats in as a boost. That's always 1,000 sats. That amount doesn't change. What you can exchange it for dollars does change. And so a lot of people that are using Lightning are not necessarily looking to exchange it to a dollar value. They're just looking to send sats to someone quickly and cheaply. If that someone cashes it out at some point or converts it to dollars, they can. But it's really not doesn't matter to the Lightning Network. Some apps like Cash.
I like to think of it. I like to think of it as like a foreign currency almost.
Yeah, it's a different currency.
I'm often dealing in U.S. dollars and Canadian dollars, but I only convert them whenever I'm going to the U.S., for instance. So sort of the same, really, if you think about it. You only convert them if you need to cross the border, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you just keep them as sats. Yeah, I did see over on my directors. I have a directors window over here, and over there I saw a little fire icon when I looked over at your video.
Oh, yeah?
It's gone now, though.
I'm on fire.
I don't see it now. Do you still have it?
No, I don't. It comes and goes. Yeah. I am no longer recording audio at the same time. Maybe that has something to do with it, but
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. No, I was mentioning it was on fire even before we hit record. You remember? You were asking me if I was ready and things are on
I thought so.
Fire. So I don't know what it is. I did buy some thermal paste, so maybe I'll get in there.
Binary then asks, if you have your own self-hosted node, does that make money transfers virtually free minus the conversion? So you can run your own Lightning node. Like Brent and I could each have our own Lightning node, and we could set the channel fee to 0, and we could exchange sats back and forth at no fees. And in fact, there is a larger and larger community, a sub-community of the Lightning community that's called the Zero Sats or Zero Fee community. And their entire movement is about setting up Lightning channels with no fees for charity and free software developers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
but even channels that have fees are just ludicrous low. Like It makes the ACH transfer system and wiring money. It makes it look so archaic, right? Because you're talking fractions of a penny. You can move tens of thousands of dollars, and you can move it at the speed of light. And it's like you scan the code, and it immediately shows as received at the other end. You're done. It's just it. It's really cool. So it's I'm excited about it as a long-term future, even if it's only really ever used as plumbing. You know, maybe we as end users aren't really setting up many nodes and configuring that kind of stuff. Like if you use the Strike app or you use the Cash app right now, you don't even know it's Lightning. You know, I just tried it the other day because I was curious. I had a $25 balance, and there was a piece of software that was like, we accept Bitcoin and Lightning, or we accept fiat. And I'm like, I got $25 in the Cash app. Let's try this. And I just scanned the QR code, instantly got it over to Lightning. Website says payment received. Boom. There you go. Here's your code. It was boop,
That's
boop, boop,
so
boop.
nice.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Man.
And we all have our mobile phone with us too, so it wasn't really that bad to just grab it and scan the QR code with my phone. It would be nice to be able to do it all on the desktop, but they have a web-based Lightning wallet called Alby, I think, or Alby. I think it's A-B-E-Y. Let me see if I can find it. And it's getting a lot of really positive coverage. Yeah, and it's on, I think it's, Of course, there's other things called Alby, too. I don't know. But it's also on Google Play, I think. Yes, it is. So it's a Chrome extension. It's an Android app. I got to play with this because this could be another way to do boosts and stuff like that. I don't know if this is it. I'll go look in the Chrome store because that's where I found it. The Chrome web store. It's that time of year, Brent, where I close up the studio for audio, and it's starting to get warm in here by the end of the recording.
Oh yeah. I know how that is. You need a few ice blocks and a little silent fan.
Oh, Alby. That's why I'm getting it wrong. I'm sorry. It's Alby. This is it. A-L-B-Y. And this is pretty neat. And this is a web extension-based Lightning wallet. So you throw a few sats into it, and then, you can use this, and you could actually pay for stuff in the web browser. Oh, geez. I already have it installed. Go figure. I could have just pulled it up. And I believe it's open source. Let's go check their GitHub license. But I believe it is open source, too. So I should probably talk about this at some point. Maybe next week. Yeah.
Well, add it to the non-existent doc, and we'll definitely do it.
Yeah. It's
You said
MIT
next week.
licensed.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. All right, my bad. It is open source. It's MIT licensed. Yeah, I'll drop a link in our chat, and then I'll after we're done here, I'll go make a doc. Well, great. I think that's everything for us. Now that I'm hitting my mic, I think that's a sign we're done, right?
Right.
When that starts happening.
I could hit mine too if you want me.
Yeah.
Feel in good company.
See, KP has a question in the Matrix chat. Mumble Room is if there's any standing JB questions, anything related to any other shows or programming, now's your chance to ask. KP in the chat room says, if I were to put forth the effort to add Matrix to my chatbot, could I get some kind of guarantee that you and Wes would actually look at it? Let's see. Yeah, we need to set up something so we could see it and to talk about it. Would be really probably great would be to join us on office hours. Like I asked Stefan to join me because this is my standing time to talk about this stuff. I schedule this in. Mumble Room's open. It's like you're always going to find me here. I will always, as long as we're doing the show, be here at this time. So you would be welcome to come in here. We could talk about it. I know what you mean, though. Like, you don't want to waste the time if we're never going to see it. The other thing would be we'd have to figure out, does it overlap with GammaBot? Is there something to do there? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd love to get that part solved because that really is the last. That and just figuring out which embeddable chat client we like. There's several for Matrix. I bet Noah probably has a pretty good suggestion on that. So we got to get the jblive.tv page with an embedded Matrix client, and then we got to get a title bot because like this doesn't have a title suggestion. So Brent and I just got to figure that out after we're done. Shit,
what are we gonna call that?
I had one. If anybody has any title ideas, you can put it in the JB chat room, in the Matrix room. I did have one. I should have written it down. I thought I'd remember it.
See, as soon as you say, "Oh, I'll remember that," that's your key to never trust yourself.
You're right. It's like I give myself permission to forget it.
You usually have that notebook with you, I guess. Maybe
yeah, I moved it because I got a lot of mice here for controlling all this stuff. You know?
Yeah,
so I just kind of ran out of room.
Oh, no. You need one like on a string that you could just pull down.
Oh, my God. That's so effing genius.
Right?
That's so effing genius, Brent.
Well, you know.
God. We could do that, dude.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, we could totally do that.
You need your notepad to write that down.
No, what I think about all the time is this. I'm worried about the servers because it's getting warm out there. So the other day, I left the garage door on accident open all day long because I was just trying to refresh the air, but I think it actually made it warmer. Did you? Set your reminder to have Brent remind you. See, that's what I got to do. That's what I got to. Uh-oh. I think maybe the audio interface dropped off again.
I did hear the music is missing. That's not great.
Shoot, dude.
Hey, better now than some other time.
True. Yeah. I just don't really. I'm already down another audio interface. I've already used my backup. These things die.
Oh,
Remember how I've told you that? These things die. They just die.
You're just pushing them too much. Doing all that audio stuff.
Yeah, we're so rough, you know. It's all the throwing around of them that I do.
They literally don't move.
Yeah, now it's working. It's dying.
So it just comes and goes?
Yeah, and I have to power it off and power it back on. The USB interface. And then it works.
That's uncomfortable.
I'll have to get that figured out. I gotta have my soundboard. Back in my day, we just had guys making sounds.
It's true. Foley artists? Is that it?
The real MVP. That's not bad. Oh, yeah. I think it was like Big Website Energy or something like that.
I like the real MVP. That's not bad at all.
Da real. It's DA. Like da real. You see
Da
real MVP.
Like Daffy Duck kind of speak.
Well, maybe.
More FUD.
Definitely needs more FUD. All right, Brantley, let's say goodbye. Say your goodbyes.
Okay, well, bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. We do enjoy hanging out with you. Hopefully, you'll join us next time. So in 2 Tuesdays, we'll be doing this here again. And, of course, we're doing self-hosted on the opposite weeks on Wednesdays. Not very obvious. But it's all on Jupiter Broadcasting's calendar at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. All right, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
See you. Yeah, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mama Room.
Are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooked. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.